Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I want to talk about the foods that I feed my fire skink Roku. I feed Roku tons of different types of insects, and I want to break down why I feed those insects and how often I feed them in this video. Before we get started, I ask that you please like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Also, please consider supporting us on Patreon or by becoming a channel member. We'd love to have you. If not, that's okay. I'm happy to have you here either way. And with all that said, let's go ahead and get started. So actually, one more thing before we get started. I have a playlist all about feeder insect nutrition, how to keep them, what to feed them, etc. I will leave that up on the screen here and down below. And throughout this video, I will leave different links at the top for the different insects that I'm covering. Watching this and you currently only offer your fire skink 1 or 2 different prey items, I really recommend upping that because variety is the spice of life, and for our reptiles it's very important for their health. So I'm going to go ahead and start with the Dubia roaches. Dubia roaches are a great feeder insect. They're a good source of protein. They are low in fat. Unfortunately, they do have a not great calcium to phosphorus ratio, which means you do have to dust them with a quality calcium and D3 supplement, but that's okay. That's kind of how most feeder insects are. I love Dubia roaches as a feeder insect for my reptiles. Not only are they a great staple insect, like staple as in something that we offer often, but they are easy to breed, they're easy to gut load. Gut loading is the process by which we offer nutritious foods to the insects before they are offered off to our reptiles. But they are just like a great feeder. They move around a lot, they're enticing, they're healthy, and Roku certainly loves them. The next insect on this list are superworms. Superworms are another feeder that I offer Roku, probably second as often as Dubia roaches, but superworms are a decent feeder. They're not as good as Dubia roaches. They do have a bit more fat. Another thing about superworms is that their calcium to phosphorus ratio is not great, and they too have to be dusted with a calcium plus D3 supplement. However, Roku has a great feeding response to superworms, and a little bit of fat now and then doesn't harm their diet whatsoever. It's not like you're offering superworms all the time, and even if you are, I've seen a lot of people have success doing that, but again, variety is the spice of life. It's the best thing for our reptiles. So superworms are definitely a part of Roku's diet. Next up is the black soldier fly larvae, which I actually just started offering relatively recently, like within the last few months. And I will just leave them in the bowl for Roku, and then Roku will scamper out and just pick at them and eat them. It's very cute. But they are a good feeder insect because they're a good source of protein, and they do not have to be dusted with calcium. They have a positive calcium to phosphorus ratio, and I go into the phosphorus to calcium ratio in these different breakdown videos, so make sure you look at those if you don't know what I'm talking about. But because they have a good calcium to phosphorus ratio, they don't actually have to be dusted with calcium and D3, so they're a decent feeder insect to offer. One thing I do want to say is that I don't believe they're good for reptiles who don't chew or chomp their food or who have issues with digestion, because they are harder to digest than other feeder insects. For example, I don't offer black soldier fly larvae to my amphibians because they swallow their food whole, and I've noticed, sorry, my white tree frogs are something else today, and I've noticed that my frogs, for example, white tree frogs, if they eat them, they will not digest them. So I don't recommend feeding them to amphibians. The feeder insect that Roku gets on occasion are waxworms. Waxworms are super fatty, which is why they're only good to be offered as a treat. They also need to be dusted with a quality calcium and D3 supplement because they have a negative phosphorus to calcium ratio. However, given the fact that they are such a little fatty treat, my fire skink likes them. My fire skink is not a picky eater, y'all. As you can see on the screen here, Roku loves all kinds of food, and waxworms are okay to be offered as long as they are just treats to an otherwise healthy diet. Like, you don't want to be offering just superworms all the time and then the treat be waxworms, you know, because it's fatty food. So again, this is the idea that variety is super important to our reptiles, so make sure that if you are offering waxworms, it's in addition to a variety of other things, and it's not super often. Next up are hornworms. Hornworms are, again, something I offer as a treat due to their low protein content, but they're super moisture filled and super calcium filled. They do not need to be dusted because they have a positive calcium to phosphorus ratio. Hornworms are big, delicious, wriggly treats that my reptiles absolutely love. I don't have a single reptile in this house that says no thank you to hornworms. Like, they absolutely love them. And the cool thing about offering hornworms is that not only do you get a great feeding response, but it's like a nice treat for them. In addition to like waxworms being a treat, for example, you can offer them like a healthy treat. Now, because they do have that low protein, they're not a good staple feeder, but again, it's a good treat for them. Last insect I want to talk about are mealworms. Mealworms are kind of along the lines of superworms as like a decent feeder, but not one of the best. They do need to be dusted with a calcium and D3 supplement because they have a negative phosphorus to calcium ratio. And they also are an okay source of protein, but they do have a fibrous exoskeleton. So offering them all the time, if your husbandry is improper, can cause some digestive issues. This is not super common, but it's something that's worth saying. But my fire skink likes mealworms like all kinds of food, and I offer mealworms from a bowl, and it's fun to watch Roku sit in there and just pick each little one out. Also, I forgot to mention with superworms, you need to gut load them as well. A lot of these insects have to be gut loaded, but the way you do it is going to be different, and the breakdown for that is in each video where I talk about them more specifically. But just like with Dubia roaches and superworms, mealworms have to be gut loaded. Now, with hornworms, when you order them, they come with food in their container already, and that's their gut load. But yeah, it's just something to keep in mind when you're making sure you're feeding an insect to your reptiles. You know, you have to dust them with calcium a lot of times. You have to make sure they're gut loaded because you want to be offering the most nutritious insect to your reptile at that time. So those are the various insects that I feed Roku, my fire skink. I'll probably have more in the future as like I continue to evolve as a reptile keeper and as more options present themselves for feeders as this community grows. Let me know, what do you feed your fire skink down below? Thank you so much for watching. I hope you found this informational and insightful. If you did, let me know by leaving a like and a comment. Also, please subscribe, hit the notification bell, and with all that said, I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!